Good morning and welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. I'm Mark Schaffner.
And I'm Richard Beach.
Richard is sitting in for Pete, and who is on vacation. I don't know if he is over in Germany still or if he has made his way to southern France yet.
Last we heard, he was in France. We gave him a call yesterday to check on those 3 roadsters, and he was at a bed and breakfast in, I forget what part of France, but
Very nice.
sounded very relaxed and seemed like he was enjoying his time.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Soon, if Pete is out there watching, hi Pete, and looking forward to having you. First, we'll get to the image that we have in the back. There's obviously been some Tesla Cybertruck news. We wanted to take today and went to AI and said, can you give us a picture of a Cybertruck configured like a monster truck driving over a Ford Lightning and a Rivian and a Chevy Silverado? Metamorphically, that everybody's thinking Cybertrucks are going to crush the competition. Thought that might be a cool way to do it. Midjourney came back with a wonderful Cybertruck, but not quite the same.
Now, I think, well, obviously what AI tried to do was combine all of those vehicles in one mixed-matched, crazy-looking car.
You know, at some point, I know we were talking before the show about eventually we'll just have AI connect itself to a 3D printer, and some of these really cool designs say, okay, go ahead, print it out life size. We need to get going on the engineering for this.
Yeah, I think that would be absolutely amazing. I mean, we can look at PCs, right? You can customize your PC with all the different parts that you want specifically. Processor, graphics card, all the other good stuff in it. Why can't cars be the same?
Yeah.
Where you just have kind of this sandbox. You can make something look just like that. Send it on over to a company that has AI and a 3D printer, and they print all the parts for you. And you select what drive motor you want, what power electronics module, and all the stuff.
There you go. That sounds like a great idea. We also have a couple comments from the Watch Rich Rebuilds channel. George is here. Says it's going to be a good show. Love yous. He also says, did anyone send any pictures from Mr. Pete's vacation? You know, George, actually, I think George might have been in southern France, and I think he may have seen Pete on vacation because he sent us a picture of Pete. If you can possibly, Jesse, pull that picture up, it looked like Pete was really enjoying himself.
Absolutely.
Out on a beachfront in southern France.
You can give me 1 second. We had no audio on Facebook.
Okay. Well, we'll get to that picture here in just a minute. But I'm, I think Pete was relaxing and doing really well. Once we get the audio to Facebook, we'll pull that particular picture up.
All right, I'm pulling it up.
Okay.
We're only going to leave this on screen for a moment. This might be terms of service.
Okay. So, there we go. There we go. So, George, thank you for the picture of your picture of maybe Pete on vacation or maybe not.
You know, he's got the sunglasses.
He's got the sunglasses.
He's got the bald head.
Yep.
You
Absolutely.
know,
Absolutely.
I was going to Photoshop Pete's face onto it if
That
I had
would have
time.
been great.
Unfortunately, I didn't, but would have been great.
Yeah, that would have been great too. Well, let's get into our news stories real quick. We were talking about the Cybertruck here. That is kind of the leading of the news. Over the weekend, on July 15th, Tesla has announced that its first production Cybertruck has been completed at GigaFactory, Texas. If Jesse wants to pull up the first Cybertruck Texas picture, they did take a picture, as is Tesla tradition of the first car to roll off the production line. As of January, industry watchers have said that there are about 1.7 million Cybertruck pre-orders, up from the 1.5 million we've been talking about. And honestly, even if there's just a fraction of those reorders that come through and actually become orders, Tesla could be busy for years fulfilling these Cybertruck orders.
Absolutely. 1.7 million, that's just an insurmountable number. That's absolutely insane.
You know, Tesla could shut down every factory and stop producing all their Model S's and Model Ys and Model 3s and just barely get through the Cybertruck production in an entire year. And that's if they were already up to speed on them.
Yeah, 100%. That's just that quantity, unfortunately, is the reason why I chose Canoo over the Cybertruck, over Tesla. When I was finally up and ready to pre-order a Cybertruck, I looked at the numbers and it was 1.25 million. I was like, yeah, I'm not getting that truck for 5-10 years.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to go ahead and go with Canoo, which had 27,000 pre-orders at the time.
There you go. You know, I'm on the waiting list for the Dodge. That Ram Revolution I thought was really, really cool looking. And you pay $100 to become like a Dodge Insider member, and the Insider members are the ones who get the first chance to set the pre-orders. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go ahead and probably do that. Although rumor has it in the news that Ford is finally their supply is catching up to the demand on the Ford Lightning. So you never know.
Well, you're hearing about that happening a little too much. They're catching up a little too quick.
Yes. So, well, back to the Cybertrucks here. Yeah. Here's some of the specs that, while there's not a lot of information out, even though we've had the first one roll off the line, they do have some of these specs. 3,500 pound payload capacity.
I do have some comparisons as well to give you guys an idea of how the Cybertruck is slated to stack up against the other trucks on the market.
Okay.
So for the payload, for the F-150, it's 1,300 to 2,200 pounds. The Lightning is 1,657 to 2,200. The Rivian is 1,384, and the Hummer EV, that monster, is only 1,487.
Holy cow! Now, Aaron, you have a Ford F-250, and it's just an ICE vehicle. I know, but what's the payload on that one?
Oh man, you just tested me. I just bought a newer 6.7, and to be honest, I don't know all the specs on it. Man, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that.
Get back to us on that. I'm sorry I put you on the spot there.
No problem. It was funny because I was looking at newer vehicles, seeing, hey, do I want to go Lightnings? I was having trouble with Lightnings in stock, but the lower models, everything was a Platinum or a Lariat that was priced out of the tax credit. So then I started looking back into diesels, and I had an old lady who was trading in her vehicle, already sold her vehicle to the dealership, and I ended up buying it on the spot as is right there. So I didn't do hardly any research, on it. I've been kind of scrambling the last couple days over the weekend too, to kind of get a little bit more information about the 6.7s, because I've been stuck with the 6.0 for so long.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a nice truck for you, though.
Well, the only solution, the only real solution is a redneck solution to this question, right? We're going to have to do a truck poll as soon as we get a Cybertruck with your truck there, Aaron.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Game on.
Absolutely. The Cybertruck's able to tow between 7,500 and 14,000 pounds, depending on the configuration. What do you have on some of these other EVs, Richard?
Yeah, I mean, so that's a really good tow rating. For the F-150, it's 5,000 to 12,300.
Okay.
Rivian is right at 11,000. The Lightning is 5,000 to 8,500, which is less than the F-150, which I thought was weird. And then the Hummer, again, this beast of a vehicle, 7,500.
Wow. I mean, we have a 1-ton Nissan. It's an NV 3500 van, and its payload's about 4,000 pounds, and its towing capacity is about 12,000 pounds.
Huh.
So this is like the equivalent of a 1-ton vehicle. Okay. Well, let's keep going here. There's 100 cubic feet of exterior storage in the Cybertruck.
I don't have the numbers on those. I do for the range and the 0 to 60.
Okay. And the range on the Cybertruck is 350 miles. That's the one that they're producing to start with. The longer 500-mile range truck is not going to be available for a little while.
And I had a question for you on that one, Mark.
Yeah.
So is there a reason, business-wise, that they would start with the lower range and then move to the longer range later on?
I'm thinking to be able to put out volume, or a majority of the reservations are for the shorter range model.
That would make sense to me. All right, yeah, and on the so for the range, the Lightning is 230 to 320 miles.
Mm-hmm.
The Rivian is 314 miles. And the Hummer is 329 miles.
Okay, so they're all up there in that 300 and some mile. I know that the Dodge Ram Revolution is announcing that when they come out, they're going to have ranges that are almost identical to the Cybertruck, 350 miles for the low end, 500 miles for their high end range.
And just a quick point on that. I think it's amazing that the battery technology is progressing on all fronts. So the newer the vehicle, the greater the range. And you're seeing these different vehicles slated to be released on or around the same time with the same numbers. Whereas just, not even a year before, 2 years before, you have significantly different numbers.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if it's that they're trying to address people's range anxiety or if they're just straight up better battery technology. I'm thinking it's more the former than the latter. They're figuring out how to shoehorn more battery into these cars.
I think so too.
So a couple more things that they've got. The one other big one that they have, 0 to 60 time, 2.9 seconds.
That's crazy. That's just wild. To give you guys context, my 2004 Honda CBR 600 RR, fast bike, 3.4 second, 0 to 60. This thing at 2.9 is insane. There isn't a current pickup truck EV that stacks up against it. The Lightning is 4.5 seconds. Rivian is 4.85 seconds. And the Hummer, I think this is impressive, but 3.5 seconds for that beast.
Wow. For a car that big to go that fast or accelerate that quickly. Whew. And I think of my old Chevy K1500. It's a 1996 that I've had for a few years. It has a 0 to 60.
I have this little sticker on my 93 F-150. It says 0 to 60 eventually.
Yes, that's exactly what mine is as well.
I think even the Mach-E, even like the GT version of the Mach-E is still only at 3.5.
Yeah, that 2.9 is that's. I think you have to get into ludicrous Model S mode before you get into those kind of 0 to 60 ranges. So that is really crazy.
Yeah, the P100D I think was 2.8 seconds.
Yes, that sounds about right. Now, there are still a couple of pending questions that we don't know specs on. For example, how much will it cost? Tesla pulled that information off their site back in 2021, and they still haven't put it back yet. So the corollary to that, when will sales begin?
So, Mark, with the sales question, right? So, or with the pricing question, give us like a brief rundown on the variables that would be going into that pricing. Why they would, originally say $39,999 or what have you.
Yeah.
What could change to prompt that price to increase possibly?
Well, the big thing that'll change would be the price of lithium on the marketplace, because lithium is one of the biggest factors driving the cost of manufacturing an electric vehicle. It's sometimes as much as 25% or even more of the total cost of the manufacturing process. Is that lithium and the battery manufacturing. So if lithium goes way up, the price of the vehicle is going to have to go up. Demand has been extremely high because of the the whole market is blowing up. And so that could definitely impact the price.
So supply and demand.
Simple supply and demand. For Tesla, they're trying something that's never been tried before. They have the gigapresses. They have the exoskeleton with the stainless steel. So frankly, they probably were just giving a swag or a best guess because they didn't know how much their manufacturing process would cost. Even after building the first one, they really don't know yet.
Yeah. I mean, if any company is going to be able to provide a pickup truck EV at a reasonable cost and still maintain a profit margin, it's Tesla.
Yeah, most definitely. The way that they've been able to blend automation with human engineering and the humans on the assembly line, I think they've got a better chance at getting and keeping profitability than most other automakers at this point in the game. So the most important question to me, how big is the wiper blade?
Well, we were looking at pictures earlier, and it looks, while it's, not extended and while it's retracted, it looks about 2 feet. Just from the pictures.
Yeah, they've had a couple of different designs on the wiper blades. One is a single blade design. Another that you're talking about is a dual blade design where one wiper blade kind of folds down on the other, and then you have effectively like two 24-inch blades. You know, I was joking with you earlier. I'm like, yeah, I mean, 16 feet or something like that. There have been some questions about that. So, well, in fact, some questions. Let's get to some of the questions that we have. Looks like Jones1 on YouTube says, "Good afternoon from Texas."
Howdy.
Good afternoon. Real Gamer on YouTube says, "Pete, living well."
Sure seems like it by that picture.
Sure does. Sure does. And then we've got Instagram, CH215714N. As the question, does everyone wear sunglasses at this company?
Just on days that end in Y.
That sounds about right. That sounds about right. You know, if I'm not wearing my sunglasses and I'm leaving my sunglasses in the car, I'm going to come back to my car and they'll be melted in a puddle on my dash.
That is very fair.
Here we broadcast from Phoenix, and the Phoenix, Arizona area is about to hit its 19th day of 110 plus. So, yeah.
Van Goat has a comment about that down after we get through these questions.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll get down to Van Goat as well. George is back and says, "Yeah, Rich, my print shop is down, so that's the best pick I could find of Mr. Pete."
That's hysterical. Well, quality picture. Quality picture.
So, George also asks, "Do you see that the passenger door alignment is off on this Cybertruck picture?"
You're talking about this one or the picture we just threw up?
I'm thinking it's this one right here. The alignment is
It looks
off.
fine to me.
I don't know. He says it's off by like a half an inch. And so, George, you can clarify if it was the one with the guys in the factory. Then we can pull that one back up. And he also says, "Hey, Jesse."
Hello, George. Nice to see you.
So, by the way, one of the things that we failed to mention today, this is the EV/green energy. This is our general show this morning.
That's right.
Tomorrow, we're going to be meeting here, same time. We're going to be talking more specifically about roadsters. And then on Thursday, we go back to the Tesla and all EVs show.
That's right. And Mark will have our service manager, Victor,
That's right.
sitting in tomorrow.
I'm looking forward to that. We'll venture a little bit out of the roadster world, I think, but we will try to keep our focus more on roadsters than we do today. I think we're going to have an update on the China roadsters tomorrow as well.
Ooh,
So
exciting.
that'll be nice. Van Goatwagon on TikTok says, "Lots of EVs are taking heat in the press because of their performance during this heat wave."
That was a good pun, Van Goat. I approve.
I do too. I do too. That's, from a very practical matter. I drive Model S. We drive a little Volvo. What I've learned on the Model S, cabin cooling is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll take, during the day, we're parking outside in the sunshine. We put the little sunshade up thing and so on and so forth. I'll leave the cabin cooling turned on while the car is charging. That both cools the cabin and cools and conditions the battery. So that when I'm driving around and driving home, I'm not overworking the car. We had, my wife and I were out a couple weekends ago at the very beginning of this heat wave. We did not do that. By the time we got home, I can attest to the fact that Model S's are like roadsters. If the battery gets too hot, the cooling goes to the battery, not to the people.
Yes.
And
While it is a very important safety feature, it doesn't communicate that well enough to our sweat glands, and it immediately affects us.
Yes, it does. And in case you haven't lived in a desert area like Phoenix, I can tell you exactly how it feels to go down the road in the summertime. Get a hairdryer, turn the setting on high, put it 6 inches from your face, point it at you, and turn it on. And that's about what the wind in the summertime feels like.
100%. I'm reminded of a time I had my first motorcycle. This was in 2017.
Mhm.
And, I rode it everywhere. I just love riding. And so I didn't care about the heat. If I was a little sweaty when I got to work, whatever, so be it. It was Father's Day, 2017. And it was 122 out. And I had to ride about 1.5 miles to go to a restaurant to meet with my family for Father's Day. When I got there, I almost had burns on me because riding on the asphalt in 122 degrees, I had gloves on, but I didn't have a jacket or anything like that.
Yeah.
My skin was beet red. It was almost like I was cooked.
Oh, you just about were cooked.
Yeah.
Just about were. Yeah. Oof. So, Crunch to Grace Hopper from YouTube has joined us as well.
Welcome back.
So, smash the thumb. Let's hit those likes.
He says he's like number 4, and he's reminding everybody, as we will right now, go ahead and smash that like button.
Absolutely. George and Watch Rich Rebuilds channel did come back to us and asked about the shot of the Cybertruck that had the passenger door off, and he said that was the factory shot that he was looking at. That's a hard one to see. The Cybertruck was kind of small, and it was surrounded by the people from the Giga Texas factory.
I'm going to pull it up here on my computer so we can take a closer look at it. Oh, there you go. Jesse's got it.
Yeah. I'm not sure that I see that it's off necessarily.
Oh, no, I see it. I see it. It's
I'm having a hard time seeing it, but
Yeah, the alignment, I don't know.
in that picture. What's the name of that picture, Jesse?
yeah.
Or Cybertruck. Okay.
It also could be on that passenger door that if it's that front piece. Yeah, hard to tell.
Do you see it
I kind of see it there between the passenger front door and the passenger rear door. Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting observation. Thank you.
Yeah, it is.
Van Goat from TikTok. He's bought into the movement.
Excellent.
I'm wearing sunglasses too. Thank you, Van Goat. Jesse's awesome, he says. You know what? Jesse
Appreciate you.
is awesome.
Jesse is awesome.
Thank you, Van Goat.
No, we had a comment earlier up. I failed to remember who it was. Nolver. He said, "Where's the Gruber Motor Company swag? Where are the bobbleheads?"
Well,
we have some that involve sunglasses. Do you want to?
yeah,
pull
about
that
right now, the one piece of swag that I know we have, and Jesse, you can tell me if it's up and live on our website yet. We've got these little handy sunglass cases. Here's one of the Founder Series cases that we and the team have. We've got Signature Series cases that are either on sale or going to be going on sale.
Yeah, it'll be going on sale shortly, probably this afternoon. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to send out an email and a social media post.
That'll be awesome. So they're forthcoming. We're going to limit the Signature Series to the first 100. And for people who want to customize these, this is a laser engraved full grain leather sunglass case, super high quality case. And if you want to have some customization engraved on the back, in addition to the Gruber Motor Company that's engraved back there, you can do that.
That's so cool.
We've had people say, "Hey, can I get my VIN number engraved on this?" Yes, absolutely. We can, on the Signature Series, it will have Pete's signature engraved on it as well. And we can either move that signature around or do what we need to.
That's really exciting. Now, on the subject of bobbleheads,
Yes.
if we do at some point end up getting bobbleheads, I think that picture of Pete on the beach, prime candidate, turning that into a bobblehead.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jesse?
Sorry, I'm distracted over here. Turning Pete into a bobblehead?
Yeah, that picture of him on the beach that we just had.
Yeah, the picture that George gave us.
We're going to use that as a template.
I think that would sell. We might have to put a warning on it, though.
Yes, I think so. We've got a couple more questions, but let's get to our let's finish this article just real quick, because there's one other thing, one spec on the Cybertruck that I had forgotten to throw out there. And for off-roading, the Cybertruck has an approach angle of 35 degrees, a departure angle of 28 degrees, and 16 inches of clearance.
I'm going to pretend that I know what all that means. I'm going to nod and say I'm impressed.
I'm going to ask Aaron again if he does any off-roading, and if so,
Wait, how much was it? 15 inches of clearance?
16 inches of clearance.
I think that's pretty good. Aaron, what do you think?
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's-
16 inches is pretty good. I mean, I could lay under something that's 16 inches of clearance, and it
That's
could
true.
go over me. So
And that's stocked.
yeah,
You know, that's what a lot of people don't understand is that's stock. It comes with the truck. In order for me to get more clearance on my truck, I'm going to have to put bigger tires, do the suspension, lift kit. Now I'm going to do other stuff to modify it. This is coming stocked with that available.
Now, I wonder if they're going to come with air ride suspension like the Model S's have, where you can adjust the level, the height of the
great question.
body of the vehicle.
Yeah, great question.
Now, you were saying that this information we have isn't for sure yet, right?
Right. Most of these specs are kind of a TBD. We're because Tesla isn't publishing anything on the Cybertruck yet. These are mostly specifications that have been leaked out either third party through the press or from the 2021 website. These are mostly rumors.
Okay, so you could say we're only speculating.
That's right. Love the dad joke.
Thank you,
man.
thank you, thank
Love
you.
the dad joke. Good for a new dad to be getting into the dad joke stuff.
If I had
Yeah.
a crickets button, I would press it.
We might need to get one of those just for me, Jesse.
Yeah, we need to get Sam Board in here.
Yeah.
Yes. TikTok 3 Bunnies has got a comment and a question for us. It says BYD is making money. Cummins has something big coming, and is there any semi talk today? I'm going to presume that BYD, because they're the second largest car maker in the world for electric vehicles behind Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to assume that he's correct on that. I'd love to hear more about Cummins having something big coming. I haven't heard much from Cummins in that.
I think it's hydrogen.
Oh, really?
They've been playing around with hydrogen
Okay.
for a long time, but it sounds like it's mostly for the bigger diesels, not the lighter diesels. So like F-250s, F-350s. I don't know what's really going on there, but it seems like the bigger transportation vehicles, the Cummins have been going back and forth on hydrogen.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense. Now we're going to have some more on hydrogen later today, time permitting. So keep watching for that. I don't have any specific semi talk today. Beyond that,
I've got nothing. Maybe a comment about the wiper blade on the Cybertruck, maybe being able to match the wiper blade on the semi, similar size. But BYD, if I'm not mistaken, recently made a comment wanting to get into the U.S. market, claiming that and I don't want to say embargo that we have or the trade restrictions that we have on China for their years of the human ethics violations and stealing of intellectual property and physical property. We have some sort of restrictions, and BYD wants to make their break ground in the U.S., but can't due to those restrictions. So maybe they're working on that.
wouldn't be surprised if they are. We've recently heard from the political side of high-level U.S. people going over to China, talking to the government, and it's the most that's been happening since before Donald Trump was president. When Donald Trump was president, it was kind of a shutdown and cool off of the relationship. It seems like things might be starting to warm up again. So I could see that.
Let's hope they warm up for the right reasons.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Elon's been talking to him about AI. So he says that a lot of the government officials in China that he's spoken to are on board, and it was announced over the weekend that they're doing a bunch of regulations on their AI because they see the same dangers with AI that we do, and they share some of those. So that's kind of like an olive branch, hopefully, too.
That hopefully is. Although a little off script from our articles here, there's something else that I came across this last week that I was eyebrow raising, but I think it's in the spirit of trying to forward the relationships. There is only one car company that I know of that's U.S. car company that is signed on to the socialist platform that China is trying to put out, and that happens to be one Elon Musk and Tesla Motors. I think they're doing what they need to do to help ensure that they have a dominant place in their market.
Yeah, I think Elon makes a lot of trips over there. He was also seen with some people from India recently. That's why there was the speculation of possible GigaFactory in India. So he's kind of all over the place these days.
Aren't they? Didn't something come out about a for sure plant in India?
I don't know if it was confirmed or not. I know that there was quite a bit of talk about it, though.
It's been a lot of speculation. I haven't heard anything for sure as of yet. Why don't you take a look up and then we can ask. We've got a question here for DKISRB4. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, so I'll just say it at that. Question for us. He says, is it cheap to repair a 10-year-old Tesla? That kind of depends on what it is that you're trying to repair on the Tesla. Some of the most common things that we see come into Gruber Motors are things like the window regulators, your AC system, some of the stuff that a normal ICE vehicle would have. Door handles are a fairly common thing, and they're not terribly bad to have to repair. Other things that are a little bit larger that come into Gruber Motors for repairs, sometimes the battery will go out. That's if you go with Tesla, you're looking for a refurb battery between $10,000 and $12,000, sometimes a little more. If you're looking at a new battery to replace, you could be looking $20,000 to $25,000. At Gruber Motors, oftentimes we can repair the batteries for less than that. A lot of times it's anywhere from $5,000 to $7,500, all depending on the state of the battery and what may have caused it to fail. Another thing our guys will repair at times is the drive motor. Some older Model S's have shown a propensity to get coolant that is supposed to go into the battery system into the drive motor instead. And that can eventually cause the drive motor to go out. Not very common, but does happen. And that's also a fairly expensive repair in order to get that done.
I mean, it's super important to keep in mind that consumers should treat electric vehicles like they treat ICE vehicles, right? If I'm looking at buying a 1990 Jeep, I'm going to look at all the problems that model has when they happen. And when I go to see this older vehicle, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to look at those specific things. And I'm going to try to figure out, how's the alternator doing, or, whatever goes on with it. Newer cars, even, if I'm buying, a 2022 car, I'm still going to look up what problems those cars have had. And when I go and see it, I'm going to look at those specific things, right? And gauge, the cost benefit, right, to potentially getting that vehicle and what repairs may need to be done on it. A lot of the times with Teslas, you can tell when there's something going on with it. For broken motor mounts, right, in a Model S, when you step on the accelerator, you're gonna hear a clunking noise. You know that those need to be repaired, right? Battery, right? When you sit down in a 100D and it's getting 110 miles at full charge, something going on with that. You can tell. Other repairs like the MCU chip going out, it's pretty obvious when that happens because the screen doesn't turn on, right?
It can do all kinds of things when the MCU is not working properly. I had a 2012 Model S, so I've upgraded to a 2017. In my 2012 Model S, I could be driving down the road. The following things would happen in the summertime while I'm driving down the road. The heat turns on, full blast, and the seat heater turns on, and the radio turns on and turns up to full volume, and the map starts spinning. And I mean, like, spin. And I end up on the map, either somewhere in the Gulf of California or Sea Cortez or off the California coast. And these tend to happen all at the same time.
Oh, man.
And if I try to turn down the radio, it goes right back up. If I try to turn off the seat heater, it comes right back on. If I try to turn down the heat, it comes right back on. And all you can do is hold down the reset buttons. Those are the two little scroll wheels on your steering wheel while you're driving, and hope and pray that when it resets, it doesn't go back to what it was just doing. Otherwise, it's a very hot, uncomfortable ride.
Oh, man. That's funny. That reminds me of, first off, if that were happening in the Model S that I drive, my first go-to would be call a priest because it's possessed. You know, there's some poltergeist going on in there. We got to figure that out. But my 93 F-150, I think it was about a year after I had it, the doors would unlock and lock and unlock and lock and unlock and lock just over and over and over and over and over again as I was driving. And then the windows would start to do this little dance. So I'd be driving with the music on full blast because I didn't want to hear the locks going. But it would still just be, and they would alternate. So one would go up, and the other one would go down. This one would go up, and that one would go down, just at the same time.
Awesome.
And it was just like, oh my goodness, man!
Awesome.
I don't like it.
Wow. Well, Roger Starkey from YouTube has joined us. I'm late, he says. Me likey. Hey, Crunch, what's up? So welcome, Roger. Glad to have you here.
Welcome.
Devari Vinod is here from India. Says here, hey Vinod, here from India. Welcome, and so glad that you're able to join us this evening in India. It's probably a pretty late night, so thank you for joining.
Welcome, and since he's from India, I'm just going to throw in here really quick. So I did look it up. The Prime Minister in India states that Tesla is, quote, serious about establishing production innovation base within India. Now that's the Prime Minister, not Tesla. So maybe they are, maybe they're not. So we'll have to look forward to that.
I'm hoping that they do. I mean, India is population-wise right neck and neck with China as the most populous nation on Earth. Their economy is growing. Their middle class is growing. There's going to be huge demand for good quality electric vehicles. Van Goat has joined us. Glad they fixed the broken window, he says. So thank you. And Roger Starkey on YouTube says it's a comfortable 72 degrees in London. I am
not fair.
so jealous.
Jesse, can we ban him? Can we get him out of here? 'Cause I'm sweating.
I'll
in
work
here.
on
We've
that.
got AC. Just kidding, Roger.
And so on Instagram, Done Working 5150 says, I have a 2017 Tesla Model S with 61,000 miles on it. How long can I expect the main battery to last? There's a lot of variables in that one.
I feel like generally it boils down to how do you treat the battery, right? What conditions are they in? Or is it in? Do you supercharge regularly? Do you charge it to 100% and then let it go all the way down to 0 all the time, right? Or do you follow the manual and keep it between 80 and 20?
Right.
20 and 80, right?
You know, we've had people from Tesla come on before and talk to us and say 90% is kind of the maximum you should be at. And if you look at the daily, the daily versus trip graphic on the MCU, it'll come up to about 90% as its maximum. 80% is better typically though. But you're exactly right. Slower charging, temperature controlled charging. If you happen to live in an area where you can keep your car under 80 or 90 or 100 degrees, or if you are in a hot area, being able to get that car into a temperature controlled environment to do charging, it's all about heat. And that 80 to 100% range heats up the battery. When your battery gets below 20%, it heats up the battery. And that heat is what causes the chemical reaction inside the lithium electrolyte that eventually ruins the battery. So there's a lot of variation you have on that. Sometimes there are, not driving the car through water, for example. If water ingress gets into the battery, then that water will cause rust in the battery and will cause shorts in the battery, and it can kill your battery very quickly. Now, by contrast, the 2012 I was driving had turned over 100,000 miles when I gave it back. The battery was going strong. In fact, that battery's been removed from that car and put into a different car that another person here at Gruber is driving. And it's still going strong. The battery had lost maybe 5% of its capacity over the time that I had it, and I drove it about 80,000 miles.
Wow. Okay. And I mean, we can use, the test pool for establishing the longevity of a battery is so big right now. And we have batteries from 2008 that are working great. in
Yeah.
Tesla Roadsters. They're working just fine, right? And then we have batteries come in from newer Model S's that need to be replaced, right? And there are a lot of variables to that, right? Environment, the heat, and how people treat it, basically, right? Nobody babies their car quite like Roadster owners as they should, right? And we see that reflected in very healthy batteries from 15 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, so I personally, I think it boils down to the person driving the car and how they treat the battery.
I think it does too. And one thing that I've said before, it does seem like batteries are more mileage related than they are time related. You know, an ICE vehicle, if you have a 12-year-old ICE vehicle, then and I might be getting that backwards actually. But the batteries themselves, they do tend to last pretty well. So while we can't give a really specific answer of how long can I expect the main battery to last, I do think you can greatly lengthen the life of your battery by treating it right. I've heard many stories, and we've seen quite a few Model S's come through here with well over 100,000 miles on their batteries. And the things that we're getting them in for to repair are not battery related. They're door handles, they're window regulators, or stuff like that. I think one of the longest range guys, one of the guys that used to work with us, Aaron McKenzie, his Tesla Model S had I think it was 185,000 miles on it or something like that, and it was still going strong. You know, he ended up with a cracked subframe due to the amount of driving that he had, but the battery itself was still doing great.
I believe we made a TikTok on that one. All right.
I think we did.
Yeah, we did. Because Chaz was welding together that subframe, and Pete goes, "But will it change your driving habits?" And Aaron was like, "No."
Yeah. Exactly.
Hey, Mark, quick question.
Yeah.
So when I was getting ready to buy or looking into diesels, I did find a private guy that I was interested in his truck. I was able to have strictly diesel take that truck in for $275. I had him go through that truck, and they told me don't buy it. It's got a death wobble, and there's a suspension and stuff going on in front, and a couple other things going on. So I passed on that truck. Does Tesla or Gruber have anything for used vehicles that somebody looking to buy do that? Can they send it to a Tesla service center or to a Gruber and have them go through the vehicle and tell them everything that's possibly going wrong with it, or if it's okay?
That's a good question.
That's a great question, actually. Now, I honestly can't say if that's true of the service centers or not from Tesla, but Gruber, yes, we can absolutely go through the car, whether it's a Model S, Model 3, Model Y, or a Roadster, Model X, any of those. We can go through them, give them a once-over, and give them some ideas about the things like the health of the battery and what's how's the drive unit sound, and do an inspection of the subframe and make sure that everything looks like it's kosher in order to buy.
Awesome.
So Crunch is back with us. It says, I'm hoping my CT comes with 2170s, his Cybertruck, and a big panel gap before I accidentally make one to secure its provenance. Crunch, I agree. I hope you can get one of those first trucks, and I'm not sure if they're going to have some of the panel gaps like the early Model S's had, because, well, I don't know. Maybe they will. They've never used the GigaPress before before the Cybertruck, I don't think so.
Well, with the Model S's, the reason they had those panel gaps is because those presses are the what are they called? The forms.
I don't remember the name right offhand, but it's the press, the presses that would make the frames and subframes.
Molds. The molds were designed for steel, which doesn't really bounce back, right? Once you melt it and put it into place. But they used aluminum, which does bounce back.
That's right.
And so these ones were the ones for the Cybertruck were designed by IDRA?
Yes.
IDRA.
IDRA.
Specifically for this. So hopefully no panel gaps.
Let's hope. Van Goat says, I'm all in for the Signature Series. So that's, we'll put you down, Van Goat. Once they're available, we'll let you know.
Absolutely.
George has another question for us. I see you shaking your head already.
Yeah.
Now that the boss is gone, where are all the Tesla bikini girls? You know, it's
I can take off my shirt, George.
Again, that's
I've
terms of service. Let's not do that.
yeah. You know, I went to a tech school, and this is kind of a technical broadcast a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
In the tech school that I went to here in Phoenix, there were about 10 guys for every girl.
Mm-hmm.
And there were about 10 to 20 girls for every cute girl. We're not going to end up being able to get bikini girls.
Rough.
Rough. Yes.
In other words, George, it ain't that kind of show.
Yes. By all means. Roger Starkey has come back with a couple of comments for us. BYD, he says, is making some money. The little that I've read in the press about BYD, they as far as their profitability goes, they are getting to the point where they're able to be profitable, and they're approaching. They're not really close to Tesla yet, but they are actually one of the most profitable of the non-Tesla EV makers. Even the fact that they're making some money on their cars is actually pretty significant, because outside of Tesla, I'm not sure there are any EV makers that are consistently making money on their cars as of yet.
Even the OEMs, the incumbent manufacturers, as Pete likes to call them, they're losing money on these EVs like no other. Just trying to keep up with Tesla.
And they're doing a lot.
Roger also said my approach angle is reducing every year. And I feel like that is just an age thing. You know what I mean? Like, he's saying he's getting older.
Yeah.
Same.
I think so. So, and the last one that Roger said was not more fuel cells. I'm not sure on that one.
I think that might be referring to hydrogen fuel cells.
Yes. And so, well, we'll see if we can. Yeah, the fuel cell is likely controversial as well. George has a question for us. It says, Mark and Rich, do you know your reservation number on the Cybertruck list?
I'm not on the list.
I'm not on the list yet either. And yeah, my reservation number would be really high.
Yeah.
George is 222.
Wow. Says he's willing to sell his spot if you guys make a platform to sell it, like your Roadster platform. Let me know.
Wow. Well, we'll have to let you know about that
That's
one.
pretty high up there on the list. That's good.
Yeah.
You know, that means that the announcement, they haven't said that they're shipping these out yet, but they've said that they're going to start shipping them out late this year, early 2024. George, when you get that, if we don't make a deal, when you get that Cybertruck, I want pictures, man.
Oh yeah.
Definitely want pictures. So Roger Starkey brings something up that I had seen a few pictures of recently in the press. It says the Tesla Semi, there's 4 different versions that have been shown in Texas, various lengths and various cab lengths. And I saw some of those pictures. We weren't going to talk a lot about that here today. But some of those cabs look like they had sleepers in the back.
Ooh.
That's
exciting.
That's exciting. That's the over the road stuff. We're gonna go and drive, and I'm anxious to see and learn more about that, Roger. You could probably expect that we'll talk a little more about that on Thursday.
I mean, I'm just looking forward to getting a Tesla Semi and converting it into a camper.
Oh, heck yeah.
That would be a lot of fun. Do you think I'd still need a CDL if we got it classified as a camper?
I don't know. You still might have to have that Class A license.
Oh, that's rough.
Well, but depending on the size of the camper, you have to have those licenses anyway.
Do you? I was under the impression that you could just go get a Winnebago the size of this building and you don't have to do anything like that.
No, when you get to the big diesel pushers and stuff, you have to get a special license in order to drive those.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so it's pretty much anything over 13 ton. You gotta get a different type of license.
I'm grateful for that. There's not a lot of times I'm grateful for regulation, but for that, I am grateful.
Yes. So, The smuggler is here. Welcome, smuggler. He says, "Where's Pete?"
I'm right here. I just grew hair everywhere.
Pete is in the south of France right now. He is taking a well-deserved vacation with family, seeing family from where he grew up in Germany, and he said he would love to have just stayed in the Bavarian Alps. Pete has shown us some pictures of there before, and I think I'd have to agree with him. It's one of the most beautiful places on earth. But when you live in the Alps all the time, and then you have family come in, you want to leave and go on vacation.
You know, if I was ever brought there or went there, I can't guarantee I would come back. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. You know, my family lives in South Central Alaska.
Wow.
And some of the most beautiful land on earth is up there. And that's actually not that far in latitude from Northern Europe.
Huh.
So there are many places in Northern Europe that are north of where we're at in Alaska. Anchorage is not far off from London, in fact, in terms of latitude.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I get what you're talking about, and I can understand why people would have the beautiful, the beauty of all that earth.
Now, Aaron, if you could scroll back up just a tad, I think there was a second piece to his statement. Oh, sorry, so I'm late to the party. Smuggler, you can join the party at the beginning, you can join at the middle, you can join at the end. As long as you make it, we're happy campers.
That's right. That's right. Roger Starkey has mentioned something about the statement that Elon made that we talked about earlier. People misunderstand Elon's politics. It's quite simple. Are you with the mission, or are you against the mission?
My response to that is only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Why, Richard?
I had the opportunity. Had to take it.
You know, Roger, I do think makes a great point, though. Elon's passion is everything Tesla. And if it's not everything Tesla, then it's SpaceX, or it's the Boring Company, or lately it's Twitter some as well. It is his businesses. That is his life. And I think he makes, and I do think that Elon is the type of person that will sign on to whatever is going to promote the business.
I agree. And yeah, I mean, politics that go along with all of that, you know, it unfortunately, it's really easy for third parties to muddy the waters.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it really is. Nulver53 has a comment and a question for us. Says EVs are still fairly expensive. And that is not the question. It's something I would agree with. Do you see the prices coming down as the technology improves? And will solid-state batteries have any part of the cost reduction?
I'm curious to hear what your comments on that.
Just so you guys have context, this came in when you guys were talking about, is it cheaper to repair an older Tesla?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So a couple comments. First, to address the context. Yes, EVs are still fairly expensive. EVs also have far fewer parts. For example, the drivetrain of a Tesla is going to have somewhere 200 parts or less in total, where the drivetrain of an ICE vehicle is somewhere between 2,200 and 3,000 parts that all wear and break, and the parts that Tesla has tend to not wear as much. An electric motor just doesn't have wear parts on it. So where EVs counterbalance, I guess is the way to say it, is that when you have a repair on an EV, it's going to be a major component because there are so few components to repair. So you might be dealing with valve replacements and transmission issues, and even worst case, you crack the head of the engine, and you've got oil changes, and you've got all these $50 to $500 repairs that need to take place over the life of a vehicle for a combustion engine. On an electric vehicle, you might not have any repairs for 10 years, and then you have a $22,000 repair.
Yep.
Or an $8,000 drive unit or something like that. So, so if you take a look at the total cost of ownership, however, I do believe EVs are already cheaper than ICE vehicles by a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that equation is going to get even better
Just
over time.
real quick to insert something with that, Mark.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't remember, or they just don't know, EVs have much, much better warranties as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
especially for that guy with the 2017 earlier, he's probably still got another year or two of warranty on that thing. So if you see massive fall off in range, take it to Tesla and get that battery swapped before it gets out of warranty and you have to pay that $20,000 or whatever it is.
There is thank you for adding that point, Jesse, because you're right. Federal mandate for electric vehicles, 8 years or 100,000 miles for the battery and powertrain.
That's awesome.
So that's not something that the manufacturers have an option on if they're going to produce any kind of EV in mass. My take on the solid state batteries, yeah, they're absolutely going to lead to cost reductions. Any battery that has more energy density is either going to allow you to have more range or will allow you to have equal range and a lighter footprint. And I think there's going to be just as many people that want to go to a 300-mile range and a 500-pound battery as there will be the people who want to stick with a 1,000-pound battery and go up to 600-mile range.
100%.
So how about your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, my mind immediately goes to history, right? Where have we seen a technology that comes out, start off being stupid expensive, and then suddenly it's massively, there's some breakthrough in technology where it's easily produced, and now it's readily available at cheap costs. I mean, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 monitors in here, right? I remember even when I was a kid, getting a new TV, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we have an example there. And back in the 50s, I think TVs came out. Don't quote me on the history. You were rich if you had a TV, like wealthy if you had a TV. And then later on, if you had a color TV, it was just insane, right? And then we had technology breakthroughs that led to wide-scale adoption. We can go to Walmart and get like a 70-inch TV for $400 now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you want an example in the automotive industry, cars before Ford, right? Same thing there. They were select. Few people, not a whole lot of people had them, right? They weren't readily available to the masses. And then Henry Ford came out with the assembly line, right? That slashed manufacturing costs. And then suddenly what was once a select few, maybe not few, a select number of people being able to afford an item, suddenly everybody was able to do that. And at a good cost, right?
Right.
We see it happen all the time, right? We see this is the trend when it comes to technology. Is it comes out, everybody freaks out, it's this crazy thing. Same thing with computers, right? And it's highly expensive, highly select, elite, and then there's a breakthrough and they're cheap and mass producible and everybody can have them.
And when you're talking about, do you see the prices coming down as technology improves? One of the articles we wanted to go over talks about that directly. Battery technology, especially whether it's the solid state batteries that are coming out or other technologies. We've talked about sodium ion batteries coming out along with lithium ion. There's been talk about potassium ion batteries. One of the drivers of all these things is cost. These batteries, once they get through the research process and produced to scale, they're going to cost less, possibly significantly less. We're talking about sodium ion batteries that are 75% less than lithium batteries in base cost. And if a lithium ion battery is 25% of the vehicle's overall value, then you're talking about a very significant portion of your manufacturing costs just disappearing. Now there is we've talked about lithium being potentially scarce. That's why it's expensive, and it's supply chain. It's not the raw materials that's scarce. New lithium is being discovered all the time. We've also talked about the promise of sodium batteries like this. Now there's a student going for his doctorate here locally in Phoenix at Arizona State University, who, along with his professor, is looking at the feasibility of fusing sodium and lithium. So Tullio Garacci is a PhD student at Arizona State University. He works with his professor, Alexandra Navorsky, and they're trying the novel approach of mixing lithium ion and sodium ion electrolyte to see if they can come up with a stable electrolyte that would be able to be used in batteries. If successful, it could revolutionize batteries because you're going to have the energy density or near energy density of lithium ion like you have today. You're going to have the lower cost of sodium because sodium is one of the most plentiful elements on the planet. And you're going to have the high energy output. You're going to have more stability potentially than lithium ion, which means less volatility, less chance for fire. Right now, they're looking at to get their optimum mix, so it's still in the early research stage, but they've already found that they can get a stable mix of electrolyte with 10% sodium and 90% lithium. They think they're going to be able to go to as high as 20% sodium and 80% lithium without negatively impacting the overall viability and energy density of the battery.
That's amazing. And Mark, you made a comment earlier that kind of put this into perspective for me. If they're able to do an 80-20 battery, that then enables a company to build 10 EVs as opposed to using the same amount of lithium as opposed to 8, which it would have used before, because 20% is made out of the sodium. That's amazing.
Yes, exactly. So, you think about that, and then there's that less mining and overhead and everything else, and you would have lower cost, but you would also have the long range and high performance of lithium. So Nolvar, we definitely think that there's a really bright future with this technology. There's going to be a lot of cost decrease. In my opinion, we're eventually going to get to a tipping point.
Yeah.
A car, some sort of vehicle is going to come out, whether it's a sedan, whether it's a pickup, whether it's an SUV. The Rivian R1S SUV is getting rave reviews. And something is going to come out. It's going to end up being priced similarly to what's in the combustion engine marketplace today, have equal to or better performance. And I think we're going to reach a tipping point where your average person who doesn't care about electricity versus gasoline to power their engine, they just care about a car that's going to perform well and be reliable. Those people are going to start buying in.
100%. For most people, when you're thinking about your day to day, for the most part, it's survival, right? For the most part, it's I need to make sure I have enough money to feed my family, right? To keep a roof over my head. Most people, and not to their shame, are not thinking about whether or not they're driving an EV, right? They're thinking about costs. Unfortunately, that's the world that we live in at this point, right? And so when it becomes a clear benefit, I think that the tipping point is going to be when EVs are cheaper than anything that any manufacturers can produce with ICE. That's when the tipping point is going to hit.
Yeah, and I think that tipping point isn't that far away.
All right, guys, just so you know, we are at an hour and 5 minutes, and we're getting very backed up on questions.
All right, well, let's come back to our questions again. NRML3D says, hi on Instagram.
Hello.
Glad to have you here. Roger Starkey talking about the solid-state batteries. He says they're going to be expensive and low volume for some time. They're going to be expensive. They're going to be low volume for a little while. There's rumbling in the news about a manufacturer putting together a 12 gigawatt factory. You can go to our Gruber Morning Show Facebook page and look up that article if you wish as well. Lightning Ride is here. Hi. Glad to see you again. Hello from Thunder Bay. Nice truck, he says.
Thank you.
So, George, also from the Watch Rich Rebuilds channel. We do want to put in that plug every so often.
Absolutely.
Says, what do you guys think about Elon just realizing Apple CarPlay in the data? It's more of a Jesse question because you're the computer code guy. But did you see the code, and what do I know?
Yeah, let me put my camera over here. I'm moving my monitor. You guys can still kind of see me. Yeah, I looked at the code briefly, and There's actually a guy on Twitter. I didn't look at the code myself, but I read the article, and basically, there's a guy on Twitter who's into code who decompiled the latest update for the Tesla app, and there's a new function call that's been added in this most recent update that allows for Apple CarPlay. Now, it's not officially in there yet. We're supposed to get updates soon on it being added. So they are clearly putting functions into the app though that will allow for it.
Okay. I think that's a cool development, being able to put the Apple CarPlay in. I know just from experience, because I have a Volvo that I own and my wife drives, and it runs off of the Google platform. So it's a car platform, and it builds on Android Auto and adds features to it.
Just a little comment there. My 1993 Ford F-150 with its updated center, my goodness, radio.
Yes.
I've got Apple CarPlay in my 1993 Ford F-150. It's about time, Tesla.
Yes, most definitely. We have Me First on YouTube. There's a couple comments here that I'm going to have to ask the guys for a little more context on. First, it says, you're not allowed to sell your spot.
I think he's talking to George about the Cybertruck.
Ah, okay.
Well, that won't stop us from trying.
Yes, that's right. And then who are the commentators? Click and Clank. Now, Click and Clank are a couple of auto commentators from a couple decades ago. They were big on NPR.
Interesting.
And they had a show that it was kind of a talk about everything automotive type of show. And any comparisons that I hear about for those, we take as quite a compliment, because it's at one point Click and Clank had several 100,000 people listening to their shows on a weekly basis.
Well, this is Mark Schaffner, and I'm Richard Beach. We're your Click and Clank.
That's right.
For today's show.
Jiminy Stack from LinkedIn is here. Did I just cut out, by the way, for you guys?
No.
Okay, good. Jiminy Stack is here. He says EVs are only more expensive up front. Running them is about $1,000 less a year than a similar ICE vehicle. Jiminy, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
You have the big components that may or may not fail, but in general, the components, because of their more simple design, are going to last a lot longer. Ken Pappas says, I've had one failure on my gas engine in 10 years and cost $2,200, much less than an EV repair. Not going to argue with you, Ken. At the same time, I think you might be in the minority.
I would say so too. I'm happy for you, 100%. But I've had vehicles from motorcycles, Honda CBR, KTM, Ford, Chevy. I've had Lincoln. I've had a bunch, and maybe my vehicle picker is just broken, because I have sunk money into each and every one of those, and it's been super, super rough.
Most of the major repairs that I've ever had happen to a vehicle have been my fault. For example, up until recently, I had a 2004 GMC Yukon. Probably my all-time favorite car. My son has it now, in fact. I blew out the transmission in that thing.
Rough.
Now, there are two reasons that I blew out the transmission. Number one, I was hauling an 11,000-pound trailer and found out after the fact that the tow limit for that vehicle is 7,700 pounds.
That'll do it.
Okay, that'll do it. Number two, we'll do it even more. I decided that it was time to change the transmission fluid, because I had about 195,000 miles on it and had not changed it yet. So I go in and I drop the pan and check it out and then clean it out and change it and put it in. I only put 3 quarts of transmission fluid in. It takes 6.
Yeah.
Did
you then tow your trailer?
And then I towed my trailer.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that'll do it.
So I got about 30 miles down the road before everything gave out.
Wow. Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah. So not cool. Not cool. Jiminy has another comment for us. He says the Chevy Bolt is only $18,000 after incentives. Jiminy, you're right. I also know, however, that the Chevy Bolt is one of those EVs that GM is discontinuing.
Ooh.
There are a number of electric vehicles, if you really would think about it, that are not that expensive after the incentives kick in and take place. The Model 3 single engine, single motor, not single engine, single motor vehicle, their cheapest vehicle that Tesla makes. That car is as low as about $25,000 to $30,000 after incentives, and that is a brand new car.
Yeah.
So
You can make it work.
You can make it work. Just that a lot of people don't have that message yet. So Jiminy, thanks for the, as is typical, the excellent comment there.
Mhm.
Is the Bolt discontinued now?
The Bolt is in the process of being discontinued. Yeah.
Oh, bummer. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Ken Pappas says, wait for hydrogen.
We had something on that. I don't know if we're going to
Hydrogen is
get to that today.
We'll see if we can get to that. But if we don't get to that today, Ken, we're going to get to that on Thursday, because there is some news on the hydrogen front. I'm not 100% sold personally on hydrogen as of yet.
Well, I did a little research on the. We'll get into it.
Okay, we'll get into hydrogen. Miranda Aldridge is saying hi. Hey, Miranda. She is saying hi all the way from the Gruber Motor Company shop, 3 doors down. So glad that you're watching today. Thank you. Roger Starkey says, Ken, you'll be waiting a long time.
Yep.
If Ken buys a Toyota, maybe he won't have to wait quite so long. They do sell some hydrogen fuel cells, but good luck finding one.
Mm-hmm.
And good luck filling up. George says, yeah, hello, 8 years. It's a warranty and then a marriage.
Yep.
Yes. So Roger Starkey talking to Jen says, 3 times the fuel cost. Hydrogen is a fuel storage method. A battery, just inefficient and expensive. So I think he's talking about the hydrogen fuel cells as well. The way the conversation's going, we may get that our hydrogen stuff sooner rather than later. Let's get through a few more questions first, though.
Yeah, Ken has another comment that leads us into another conversation we were going to possibly get into today. He says, power grids can't even deliver power to our homes. How are we going to solve this to charge cars?
There's a piece there. I want to let's talk just a little bit about that one.
Sure.
Because first, you guys did a video on the power grid.
Yes. Yeah, we did.
You did some research on that.
We went into it. Jesse?
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing. We went into it, and there's another much bigger YouTube channel. It has like 4 million subscribers, called Engineering Explained, and they did all of the math on the grid and how it can already handle everything and how it'll scale just fine. And we used a lot of that info in our own video, but there's no issues with the grid.
Yeah, we went at it. I think all of us were on board saying the grid can't handle it. We need to sound alarm to this problem. We agree. This isn't going to work. And then after doing research, we were pleasantly surprised that if it won't work now, it will. It's underway.
Yeah, it's there are probably the weakest link in the grid right now is the high voltage lines. How difficult it is to get through the regulatory red tape to build high voltage lines across areas of the country that environmentalists just don't want to see disturbed. But that is moving forward slowly but surely.
There's other stuff coming out too, like vehicle to grid, vehicle to home, that's going to make these vehicles extremely useful for the grid. And then also there's things like Tesla Powerwall. And then we have our whole Gruber Power division that does its own stuff as far as commercial power management. There are a number of situations, and people like to use, what happened in Texas or the brownouts that happened in California. They like to sound the alarm of those things. It's really just not the case nationwide where all of a sudden the grid is going to crash. That's not how it works.
I feel like it's so totally reasonable to bring things like this up, because if everybody was just gung-ho on everything that came out that was being pushed, we would as a species go extinct.
Right.
We we are supposed to be skeptical of everything. We're supposed to question everything. We're supposed to look into things and do our own research and really get into the nitty-gritty of it. The trick to that is staying unbiased while you do it, right? Because you can research whatever. You can find any information you want that's going to fit your worldview exactly how you want it to, right? You'll hear where your itching ears want to hear, right? But when you go into the research and you find out, information that's counter to it, right? You have to look at that and then decide, does my view need to change, right? So looking into these things and being skeptical, great. But when, not if, when new information comes out and these things aren't an issue anymore, I hope that you'll be more open to this change that we're having.
Yeah, and the change is going to happen whether we want it or not. In all truthfulness, when we're talking about solar power and power to our cars, I can speak anecdotally from my personal experience. I have solar on my house. When I go and get solar power from my house every afternoon, I'm selling selling power back to the electric grid for 2.9 cents a kilowatt hour.
Mm-hmm.
And that electricity that my house generates that I'm not using, that's getting sold, is not going up to some substation to eventually be delivered to some other house somewhere else in the grid.
Mm-hmm.
It's going probably 50 feet to my neighbor's house.
That's cool. Because
that's how electricity works. And with the number of rooftop solar installations we have, at least here in the Phoenix area, it's becoming a meaningful percentage. Electricity will flow the shortest distance that it can.
Mm-hmm.
So when my house is producing more electricity than it needs, my power company is buying its electricity from me for 3 cents a kilowatt hour and turning around and selling it to my next door neighbor for 15. They're making a killing, but at the same time, I'm doing my part to help support the grid and keep things green.
Totally. And who doesn't like that, right?
Yeah,
you're being neighborly.
Well,
giving energy.
And from the very practical standpoint, I happen to like the fact that my large 2-story home has roughly the same power requirements as my friends and family's 1-story homes that are half the size.
Huh. That's awesome.
Yeah, I talked to Jesse even a little bit, and the power bill that he has in his apartment is almost the same as the power bill I have in my house.
Ooh.
Yeah, especially during this heat wave, it's not good.
Now, I'm sure the audience noticed I took the headphones off. They died. I need to go ahead and grab a set from over here.
So
please excuse me.
Okay.
Hey, Mark, did you see the impact report on all the new superchargers coming up on all being renewable going forward?
I have not seen the total impact report on that.
So I know one thing we see a lot is like, how are all these superchargers going to get on the grid? It's going to kill the grid. And I think it's from 2021. They're all on renewable energy, battery and solar. And in the old ones, I think Elon stated that they were going to be detached from the grid as soon as they can. And soon all superchargers will be renewable energy. So that's a lot of stress taken off of the grid right there.
Yeah, you make a good point there. The superchargers not only are able to be built fairly quickly and efficiently, Tesla, because of their abilities to have stationary battery storage, I'm sure they're going to be putting some of their power, their stationary batteries, the Megapacks, up next to the superchargers. I've actually seen photos of some of that happening. So the combination of a Megapack battery, solar to charge that battery, and then going straight into the supercharger will help to take load off the grid as well. So Roger Starkey says to Kim Pappas, look up. I think he's talking about the sun.
Solar, yeah.
Roger Starkey says, you need the same electricity to liberate hydrogen, but 3 times the amount. Yes, but. And I know we're still going to get through questions. That will be the next thing that we talk about. Ken says, let's talk about how we're going to dispose of failed batteries without harming our environment.
And then I think Roger answers him below, just so that you guys know. We kind of let the conversation go on in the chat after this, but Ken seems like he has some skepticisms, and he kind of is addressing those with some of the people in chat, which is perfectly fine. You know, we welcome all that stuff here.
Okay.
And we're glad you're here learning some stuff from us, and we're learning from you too.
By all means. And and I'm going to leave this with Roger, and then we're going to get to one of the next story that I want to have, where Roger says Redwood Materials is one example of lithium-ion recovery, where there's 95% battery recovery or materials recovery. Basically, the reclaimed material is more pure and only about 17% of the price of the mine stock. Redwood Materials was started by J.B. Strobel, one of the chief Tesla engineers, and we've talked about that a little bit in the past. So the idea of lithium simply being thrown away and disposed is not necessarily something that has to occur.
That's correct. And we had Sandy Monroe on the podcast, and I think he sat down for an interview with J.B. Strobel, and he basically said that Redwood is starving, that the amount of battery packs that are being sent to them is so low that they're looking for battery packs to recycle. And that just tells you what the actual, quote, throwaway rate is of battery packs, specifically Tesla battery packs. I think it's 90% of the time they can be remanufactured, meaning, you know, dead cells cut out and repurposed. Right. Yeah. There's not a whole lot of recycling that needs to happen, but even that which does happen is done at an extremely efficient rate.
Yeah. The one of the things that we've seen as well is, you know, battery packs that get used up are not necessarily, they're not going all to landfills. We had one article we had a couple weeks back where there is a picture of a sea container with the long end cut out of the sea container and doors put in. Battery packs were stacked up in that sea container as stationary storage. The whole idea is that a battery pack has to be manufactured and used in a very stringent manner. And when a battery pack falls out of those stringent specifications for automotive use, it doesn't mean that the battery pack is useless. It just means that it can't be driven.
Correct.
And as a result, the battery packs can go into other applications. In this case, it was a stationary power application.
I would love to have that for, you know, an off-grid solar setup for a house.
Yeah. And
they can absolutely be used for that.
Yeah. In this case, the battery packs were being put onto the grid. They were going to be extra storage for solar generated power, and they were going to be put back onto the grid as the grid demanded it.
Awesome.
So yeah, definitely is something. So I want to get to the hydrogen comments a little bit more, because we had an article this week that I wanted to talk about. Hydrogen can be made through many processes, you see. And there are, some of them are very expensive environmentally and electrically. Some of them are not. When we're talking about the different types of hydrogen, you've got, for example, blue hydrogen, which is hydrogen that's extracted from methane or natural gas. That is not a particularly clean way to produce hydrogen. The hydrocarbons, greenhouse gases, are one of the large byproducts of it. Brown hydrogen is hydrogen that's extracted from coal. Basically, coal is gasified and hydrogen extracted from it. So again, you're producing a lot of carbon dioxide, throwing it into the atmosphere. Other ways of electrolysis for hydrogen, pink hydrogen, which is electrolysis based but comes from nuclear power, is another way. Green hydrogen, electrolysis based, but it comes from renewable energy sources, solar energy or wind or water powered energy. There is another type of hydrogen that previously has been thought to be fairly rare, but might not be, and it's called white hydrogen. White hydrogen basically is naturally occurring hydrogen in the crust of the earth. And it's found in underground deposits similar to oil or natural gas. One of the stories that came out here in the 1980s was of a gentleman drilling a well in Mali. And this poor gentleman apparently hit a pocket of hydrogen underground. And he was smoking. And it blew up.
Oh man.
Unfortunately, unfortunately for him, scientists came in after the fact. I never heard if it killed him or not. They came in after the fact and discovered that the hydrogen coming out of the ground from that well was 98% pure.
Wow.
And so,
White hydrogen indeed.
White hydrogen indeed. Scientists, including the U.S. Geological Survey, are now estimating that there's enough hydrogen in the ground today, in the crust of the Earth, to meet global hydrogen demand for centuries. And just as importantly, in fact, possibly more importantly, it appears that much of these hydrogen deposits occur as a result of chemical reactions that are occurring deep underground. And that means, unlike oil or other hydrocarbons, this hydrogen is replenishable. It replenishes itself as it's extracted from the ground.
That's really interesting.
So the technology to capture white hydrogen exists today. Much of the technology that we use to capture petrochemicals, the crude oil and natural gas and stuff like that, can also be used to capture hydrogen with little modification.
So you're talking about the classic pumps you see going. Okay.
Yes, the classic oil well pumps and stuff like that. They can be altered, and the main thing is that hydrogen's fairly corrosive to metals. And so the alterations have to dealing with the fact that there's going to be a corrosive material coming out.
So you're saying we can keep oil workers employed, they just won't be getting as dirty.
Yeah. Exactly. They'd be getting hydrogen out instead of oil. And the hydrogen that they get out from the wells that they drill is going to consistent replenish itself. So they don't know how long these wells might be able to exist. Unlike an oil well, which has a defined lifetime of anywhere from 5 years to about 30 years. They have no idea how long these hydrogen wells might be able to exist. The biggest issue is nobody's ever looked for it before.
So we could be sitting on a gold mine right now and we would have no idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's starting to catch people's attention though. Europe is further along in the usage of hydrogen for energy purposes than here in the United States. And there is a definite interest about extracting white hydrogen out of the ground. And the scientists are moving forward with at least experimenting on how to further purify it. Most of the white hydrogen that comes out of the ground is relatively impure, 10% to as much as 70 or 80% purity. The reason we don't see hydrogen bubbling up out of the ground like oil is that hydrogen will come up through the ground, get to a patch of oil, and it will chemically react with the oil. Or it'll get to a different type of soil, an acidic soil. It'll react with that soil, and it'll bond with the soil instead of coming out of the ground.
That leads into, I have a few concerns with hydrogen. I'm cautiously optimistic. Same thing as I said before on the last show with full self-driving. I am not certain about it, but I'm willing to be convinced. I'm open to this idea. The first concern is, when we started pumping oil out of the earth and burning it, we didn't really consider what it would do to the environment. We didn't consider what it would do when humans breathed, if I could speak, it in every day, right? There wasn't a whole lot of studying that went on with that, right? There was no consideration. I don't want us to do the same thing with this. I hope that the people that are discovering these things and doing the research on them are not able to be lobbied, are not able to be swayed in any specific way, so that we can figure out exactly what this is going to do to us as a species, to our planet, and all the other wonderful creatures on this planet. If we start to harvest this hydrogen, right? I know that hydrogen is very important for soil, very, very important to crops. So what's going to happen if we start pulling that, right? How long does that hydrogen take to get from that pocket to the soil, to the plants, to the animals, to our stomachs, right? What is that process? What does that look like? And what's going to happen if we start starving the earth of that, right? All these things I have no answer for, but I really hope that unbiased and straightforward and honest people do that research first.
I'm excited about the possibility. I do hope that people will be careful with it as they go forward. The potential of a natural source of hydrogen fuel that doesn't require all kinds of electricity for electrolysis or burning of hydrocarbons, which kind of defeats the purpose, in my opinion, is exciting. And that the whole idea is that this could be a revolution similar to the revolution that took place starting about 10 to 15 years ago with oil fracking, where oil that was deemed unreachable suddenly became reachable in huge quantities, to the point that the U.S. became energy independent after believing that it could not happen ever in our lifetimes. And think about the idea of hydrogen at 50 cents a kilo, where hydrogen today may cost between $10 and $20 a kilo to produce. So the chances of it being revolutionary are out there. It's one of the green energy sources that, frankly, there's a chance for.
Yeah, we'll just have to see with it.
Maybe Toyota wasn't quite as wrong as we've been bashing them for.
Yeah, very
Guys,
No, I'm not going to buy that one.
guys, just so that you're aware, we're at 1 hour and 31 minutes. I think we need to maybe get through some of these. Sometimes we can take questions into the next podcast, but we have several pages of questions.
Let's go ahead and get through a few more questions.
Lightning
we might
round.
go a little bit longer here, and then we'll save our other articles for this next time. First, we have George, who says, "Hey, Mark, my 12-volt battery light on my Model S 2014 is on. Do you recommend the $235 battery that Gruber Motors sells better than what Tesla has to offer?" My short answer is going to be yes, I do. We've paired with a very reliable, reputable battery manufacturer. In fact, I believe it's the same manufacturer that makes most of Tesla's batteries. And then you have to bring some pictures of your baby.
I do. I did send one over to Jesse. I don't know if he got it, but I'll do a quick, just show you a picture right there. I mean, you can't really see her, but that is little Sierra May. I will have a picture we can actually throw up next time.
She's a little doll.
She's the best.
Lightning Rod says, unless you are very deep into it, the amount of power that's coming online, basically for free, is going to alter the world in a way that's kind of impossible to even imagine. Lightning Rod, I'd love to hear more about this, but I think that you have a point. Just the amount of solar that we've seen coming online. And now we've got wind power, and now we're getting hydroelectric. Talking about hydrogen here as a clean power source. Tidal energy. We never even talk about tidal energy as an electric source, and yet that's starting to come on. So Jiminy Stack says, superchargers like at Dateland, Arizona, with 40 solar, PV, and shade, plus a Megapack battery. I hope every supercharger can be more like that. I can't wait to see that one. Dateland is not far from Phoenix. Lightning Rod says, I'm deep in it because of employment and interest. That's true. Roger Starkey says, Tesla is installing 68 Megapacks to run the Texas Gigafactory, and they might even add one more. Now, a Megapack, if I remember right, is about 2 megawatts of energy, maybe a little bit more. And so that means that they're going to probably run those. They're going to run that entire factory on green energy when all is said and done.
That's going to be really cool.
That's really cool. Lightning Red, I think I know a lot for a regular pylon like me. I appreciate you, Lightning Rod. George from Watch Red Tree Builds says, I told you it's going to be a good show. Sorry, Jesse.
Yeah. Interesting show.
Machine NZ says, in the UK, according to the AA, it's now cheaper to run a diesel than an EV if you don't have your own charging.
Interesting.
That's very interesting. I think the key there is if you don't have your own charging.
Yeah, and it's country to country too. You know, I don't know anything about the UK's standard exchange rate. You know, what it would cost for you to buy a gallon of milk versus me here in Arizona, diesel. We don't know. So there's a lot of variables going on there.
Yeah, there definitely are. I don't know the electric rates in the UK. I know if you do nothing but commercial charging here in the United States, you still save probably around 50% or so on your fuel costs over what gasoline would be. The United States has historically been, throughout the world, a place where the energy costs are actually quite low.
Well, since I've had the Model S versus my F-150, I haven't spent a penny on any
That's
kind of
true.
fuel.
That's
I
true.
charge here.
Yeah, that's I'll charge at home sometimes because I live kind of far away from the office. But charging at home usually means plugging in at 10 o'clock to take advantage of my solar, so I
There
don't
you
pay
go.
for it there either. Ken Pappas says, I'm reading that manufacturers are having difficulty getting raw materials to make batteries. Ken's point is actually good.
I read right below that though.
For Roger Starkey, he says, well, if the UK government has a word with the energy companies and instructs them to stop profiteering, the cost couldn't go down by more than 50%. For Ken's point, the challenge is less the mining of the raw materials and more the refining of the materials that have been mined. We've talked about in the past, China as a country has over the last decade developed an outsized, almost a monopoly on both the mining and the refining of lithium. It's not environmentally friendly. China doesn't really care about the environmental friendliness of the process. And so they just move forward. And as a result, they have more capacity.
There's more to get into about their stranglehold on the mining as well, the methods they've used in order to get permission from those countries to be there to do that. But that's another conversation.
Yes.
But yeah, and we've got things in the U.S. opening up for refining, correct?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
It's, in fact, just making the news minutes before we went live today. The U.S. Supreme Court has rejected an appeal by Indian tribes on the lithium fields that are in Nevada. They said that they should not be able to mine there. And the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals said, no, you're wrong. And they appealed to the Supreme Court, and that's come back down. I believe it's at the Supreme Court level. It might be in the Ninth Circuit, but the energy is won in this case.
Interesting.
They're going to be able to mine lithium. Lightning Rod says, like, for instance, Canada for electricity. In my lifetime, it has sold electricity to Middle America at a loss, below cost, for a lifetime loss of almost $1 trillion. Now, when he talks about Middle America, he's talking about the United States as well as Central America.
Okay.
So he says, not too bad for 30 million Canadians. It's for aluminum manufacturing. Interesting. That's so Roger Starkey says, white hydrogen, coincidence? I don't think so. Lightning Rod, what happens if your hydrogen well lights up? Oh,
if you're digging a hydrogen well, don't be smoking a cigarette.
That's right. When I was reading for that hydrogen article, I heard about a place, I think it's in Turkey. There was this gas coming out of a mining shaft, and the miners threw a flame down the shaft so that they could get the gas out and start mining the minerals. Did not know. Now they believe that gas was hydrogen. It's still burning today. They threw the light down there in the early 1960s.
Wow.
So, yeah. Machine NZ, 1st of April, 2025. EVs will pay for the road tax for the first time in the UK. The new 2025 vehicle excise duty rules will have a significant impact for thousands of EV owners and their annual motoring costs. That's happening here in the States as well. A lot of states are putting in taxes, registration taxes on electric vehicles that are higher than the gas taxes that the vehicles, that the electric vehicles replace.
Government always needs to get its cut.
It needs to get its cut. Yet the electric vehicle owners kind of shrug because they know that in the big picture, they're still saving a whole bunch of money over fuel. Lightning Rod, hydrogen is the most common element. It is not hydrogen about 2 seconds after it hits the atmosphere. That is true. Hydrogen will react with just about anything around it. It's the lightest element. It is the most reactive of all elements. And it is the most abundant element in the universe, not just on Earth.
Wow.
A lightning rod, widely distributed generation and storage at home. That would be mind-boggling to what we would consider the middle class here in North America.
Absolutely. And Ken Papa said, I'm absolutely positive on EVs. I just have some concerns. Again, nobody blames you, right? I'd be concerned if you were blind and just running full force into this without any consideration. Everybody needs to have their own considerations, and I'm glad you do.
Yeah, I absolutely. Kim Pappas is asking us a history question here. Do you remember the electric race? AC versus DC?
Drawing a blank.
AC was Nikola Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
DC was Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison believed that DC was the way to go for energy. He was trying to solve the issues with energy loss, line loss, basically. And Nikola Tesla came in with the alternating current that, well, you won't have line loss if you have very low current but very high voltage.
Mm-hmm.
And that alternating current is what ended up winning out because it was so efficient over distance.
Huh.
So they were able to string an electrical line from Niagara Falls all the way to New York City and still had, I think, somewhere around 80% of the electricity that was being generated at Niagara Falls being delivered to New York City.
That's awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
I think that's all we're going to do today. If you asked a question and we didn't get to it, we apologize. We will get to them next show.
Guys, I really appreciate all your participation today.
Yeah.
We say it many times, and it's never more true than here when Pete's on vacation. You guys out there help run the show for us, and we couldn't do this without you. Thank you so much for the time that you've had. It's been a great time for me.
Yeah, same here. I've had a lot of fun.
So Victor and I are going to be here tomorrow morning,
Right.
Same time, 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time or Mountain Standard Time. We will focus our talk mostly on roadsters, but will not necessarily be limited to roadsters. And then Thursday, Richard's going to join me back again at 10 o'clock. Look forward to seeing everybody then.
I'll see you guys Thursday. I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Take care.
Take care.